What rhetorical considerations did you make?
I would say that I represent the rhetorical appeals, ethos, pathos, and logos combined in my proposal for an all-inclusive after-school outreach program. Firstly, I introduced the problem through the outlet of pathos. I needed my audience to understand the motivations of an all-inclusive program for at-risk youth in the Centralia School District, as well as include an array of feelings that included empathy for the current situation, leading to the emotion of guilt, and ultimately leading to the desire to make a change. With the intention of ethos, numerous sources stemmed from scholarly journals, and that included credible representatives and professionals who actually wrote on these topics, both for at-risk youth and for the impacts that after-school programs make on youth. I used those combined to represent ethos. And then I also brought in logos and kairos combined by bringing in recent local sources that spoke on the current resources we have in Centralia, such as the bus routes, the student poverty rate that linked to reduced meals in Washington Elementary specifically, and overall the current information that regarded the lack of programs that exist here in Centralia today.
What was difficult? What was easy?
I would say that it was difficult to refine my sources that I wanted to implement into my proposal, because I really wanted to make sure that with the assortment of varying sources that I brought in, that I was able to maintain a flow to my proposal that stayed focused and aligned with all of my claims. It made it easy to bring in my personal analysis on the situation and speak on the current resources, since I myself was a student of Centralia for the entirety of my youth. And although I never had problems where I needed assistance out of school, I did have friends who experienced just negative situations, and I really think that with the implementation of a program for this group of youth that needed it, I think that people could really benefit from these kinds of programs.
What worked well? What didn't?
Although I was unsure of myself at first, I think it really worked well to include a combination of different sources throughout my paper within the categories aims and objectives, assessment of current resources, expected outcomes and benefits, counter-arguments, recommendations, and then of course a conclusion, in that order specifically, just because it was really organized and it showed a great deal of structure. But what did not work well for me was trying to include all of the information in large sums, just because I felt like my paper was going on for miles. Therefore, it worked best when I created subcategories so that my audience could follow along without losing the purpose of my proposal.
If you could go back and change something about your piece, what would it be?
If I could go back and change anything, I would try to add more personal references. Although I grew up in a supportive environment, like I said earlier, I definitely knew people that did not, and I would just try to maybe include some of their testimonies just to try to add in some more pathos in a more personal way.
What advice might you give to someone who's trying to write this piece in the future?
As far as advice for another student going to write this proposal, I would advise them to bring in local sources like I did. For instance, if the Centralia School District representatives actually did really read this, I honestly think that it would hit home for them, considering that they're the leaders who are supposed to value our students' needs. They're the ones that are supposed to be here for them. So if they read this and they just turned a blind eye to something like this, I think that would be pretty difficult to do. So definitely bring in those local sources, because it makes an impact in an entirely different way.
What did you think about your topic before you began researching? What about after?
Before researching, I knew that my topic was going to require a heavy amount of research. I knew that it was going to be semi-difficult, but in the end, I was happy with the end result, personally. I think I've said it before, but the flow of my proposal came together quite smoothly, in my opinion, and I was honestly proud of the work that I produced.
Do you feel this assignment helped you discover new knowledge? What insights did you gain?
Yes, I definitely gained some new insights. Specifically, sadly, on the poverty that strikes the city of Centralia, my hometown. I feel for these children who need free lunch, which is sad because in so many local schools, it's just far too high of a number. And although my family struggled with money growing up, my wellness was a top priority to my parents, and had it not, I would have hoped that a program like this would have given me the resources that I needed, that all of our youth deserves. Our future is really within our youth, and I think that we should invest, as we do anything else we are passionate about, we should invest in them.